Welcome to I Told My Story. I'm Chris. That day, I was at home playing PlayStation with Ryan. It was the final moments of the match, and every second was worth gold. I had one last chance to break the tie and claim victory. Just at that critical moment, the door suddenly flew open. "Hey, can I play with you guys too?" my brother asked. He had barged into the room without permission again. I opened my mouth to reply, but at that moment, I left a gap in my defense. And then, just like that, Ryan's voice echoed through the room. "Goal!" As the reality of defeat sank in, my anger skyrocketed. I turned sharply to Alex. "How many times have I told you not to come into my room without permission? I just concealed a goal because of you," I shouted. Alex's face, a mix of surprise and sadness, only made me angrier. He turned slowly and quietly left the room. "It's just a game. No need to yell at your brother like that," Ryan said from behind me. "Stay out of my business, all right?" I snapped harshly. Ryan put down the PlayStation controller, looking a bit bored. "How about we play some soccer outside? I'm getting tired of PlayStation," he suggested. I turned to him with a slight grin. "All right, but this time, the loser buys pizza," I said, and we both laughed. I looked around to find the ball, but it wasn't anywhere in sight. My first thought was Alex. He must have taken it. My frustration flared up again, and I quickly marched to Alex's room. I opened the door sharply, and there he was, sitting on his bed. "Do you have my ball?" I shouted, my anger growing. Alex lowered his head and replied in a sad voice. "I borrowed it last night just to play a little, bro." I clenched my teeth, staring at him. "You're never touching my ball again," I said, my voice cold and firm. I slammed the door and walked out. When we sat down for dinner that evening, the tension from the day still hung in the air. Alex quietly stared at his plate and Mom looked tired. As we ate, I suddenly exploded. "Mom, Alex barged into my room again today. He keeps taking my stuff without asking. He even took my ball. I've had enough," I complained loudly. Alex sat there with his head bowed, saying nothing. Mom looked at me and took a deep breath, her face sad. "Chris, you're the older brother. You should share your things with your brother and protect it. Ever since your father passed away, I've been working to support the family and take care of both of you. I expect you to be a little more understanding. Please, don't treat your brother like this," she said in a calm but heavy tone. Her words echoed in my head, but at that moment, I could only look down at the floor, consumed by a mix of anger and that hollow feeling inside. I heard what she said, but I just kept staring at the ground, pretending not to care. The weekend arrived, and once again, Ryan and I were playing PlayStation. The excitement was at its peak, and we were playing fast. Without noticing, Alex had snuck into the room and was watching us. I seized an opportunity and scored a quick goal against Ryan. "Goal!" I shouted in joy, the thrill of victory filling the room. "Way to go, big bro," Alex shouted excitedly, jumping up and down. In that moment, he knocked into the table with an exaggerated move, sending my phone crashing to the floor, cracking the screen. Alex quickly picked up the phone, fear written all over his face. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, bro," he said, his voice trembling. At that moment, my anger hit its boiling point. Everything was piling up and I couldn't hold back anymore. "Alex, what do you mean you're doing? How many times have I told you not to come into my room? Enough is enough. I wish you weren't here. I wish you weren't my brother." A deep silence fell over the room after my words. Alex's eyes filled with tears and his lips quivered. Before the tears could fully spill down his cheeks, he turned and ran out of the room without a word. Ryan opened his mouth to say something, but I just stared at the ground. I could feel a flicker of regret inside me, but at that moment, the anger drowned everything out. In the end, Ryan lost the match. After turning off the console, I looked at him with a teasing smile. "Looks like it's your turn to buy pizza. Haha, you lost, my friend," I said with a mocking grin. Ryan sighed in defeat. All right, you win. Pizzas are on me," he said, and we both stood up. Just as we were heading for the door, Ryan suddenly stopped and looked at me. "Why don't we invite your brother? He shouldn't stay home alone. After all, he's still a kid." The urge to tease hit me again. I shrugged and said mockingly, "Nah, he'll find something to eat at home. He's always stuffing his face anyway." Ryan didn't say anything, just nodded slightly. We closed the door and left. When I got home, the panic on my mom's face was immediately noticeable. The moment I walked in, she asked, "Where's Alex?" I shrugged in confusion. "I don't know, Mom. Ryan and I went out for pizza. He was home when we left." I said. My mom's eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling. Why didn't you take your brother with you? Were you out having fun while he was home alone? She asked, her voice harsh and something inside me broke. Mom, I didn't know. I didn't even see him, I said helplessly. But my mom couldn't hold back her tears anymore. I told you to take care of your brother the other day, but you? How could you be so selfish? She shouted. Then she said the most crushing words, her voice shaking and heartbroken. If your father were alive, he would be ashamed of the way you've become. Her words echoed in my mind as she suddenly turned to the door. I'm going to look for your brother, she said and rushed out. As I sat at home alone, the fear and anxiety gnawed me. When would my mom come back? Had she found Alex? Time seemed to crawl, each second feeling heavier than the last. Finally, there was a knock at the door. I rushed to open it, but my mom returned alone. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her face flushed from crying. She looked broken at the door. Looking straight into my eyes, she sobbed, "How could you do this to your brother?" Her voice filled with grief and disappointment. Tears streamed down her face without stopping. Seeing her like that tore me apart. Mom, I'll find him, I promise. I'll find him, I said, determined. I immediately ran to Alex's home. I was frantically looking for any clue. His room was as messy as ever, but something felt off. My eyes landed on the sketchbook on his desk. My heart tightened as I picked it up and started flipping through the pages. The first few pages were drawings of us, me and him. But between us, there was a broken heart. As my eyes scanned the page, the next one had a sentence that froze me in place. I love my brother, but he doesn't love me. A deep emptiness filled my chest and even breathing felt difficult. As I kept turning the pages, the pain grew. On another page, he had written, "Maybe I'm adopted? How could my brother not love me?" It felt like a knife had stabbed straight into my heart. How could I have been so blind? From Alex's perspective, I started to see the world I had forced him to live in. On the next page, he had drawn an amusement park and showed himself smiling happily. Next to it, he had written in big letters, "The place where I'm happiest." It suddenly hit me. Alex must have gone to that old amusement park where we used to be happy together when Dad was still alive. Panic surged through me, and I quickly grabbed the flashlight from the house and ran out. As I rushed toward the abandoned amusement park on the outskirts of town, my heart pounded in my chest. All I could think about was finding Alex. When I arrived at the amusement park, I shone my flashlight into the darkness as I entered. Everything was silent and eerie. The thought that Alex might be here somewhere made me search frantically. Suddenly, a harsh voice boomed behind me. "Who are you?" I quickly turned around to see an old security guard, his stern eyes and baton in hand, marching toward me. "Get out of here, or you'll regret it," he threatened, his voice menacing. In a trembling voice, I said, "I'm just looking for my brother. He's lost." But the old man didn't listen to me at all. "There's no one here, now scram!" he yelled, advancing toward me. Panic surged and I started running. The sound of the security guard's footsteps grew closer behind me. Suddenly, he cornered me with his baton. "Now you're going to regret this," he threatened, his voice menacing. Just then, a voice suddenly shouted from behind, "Hey, look over here!" The guard quickly turned and a bright light shone into his eyes, blinding him. He staggered, and there was Alex standing there, holding the flashlight. "Come on, we need to get out of here!" Alex shouted, running toward me. We sprinted out of the amusement park together, the guard's shouts fading into the distance. When we opened the door, Mom rushed to Alex, tears streaming down her face as she hugged him tightly. "Oh, thank goodness you're safe," she cried. She turned to me, her eyes filled with gratitude and pride. "I'm so proud of you for bringing your brother home safely," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. But I could only offer a small, sheepish smile. "Actually, if it weren't for Alex, I wouldn't have made it out of there," I admitted, feeling slightly embarrassed. Mom looked at me, confused. "What do you mean? Where were you? What happened?" she asked, worry written all over her face. Alex and I exchanged glances, and then suddenly we both burst out laughing. After everything that had happened, the tension broke, and for the first time in a long while, we were just brothers again. From that day forward, Alex and I grew closer,
always looking out for each other. That's what being brothers is all about, huh? And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Bye!